Okay, so today we're going to look at another aspect of Kantian ethics, specifically his concept of duty and how the goodwill relates to that. So let's start, as always, with our key idea. What is the key idea for Kant? Well, he's a deontologist, which means that his is an ethics of duty, and he thinks that duty is an absolute command, an absolute thing. And it just requires you. There's no motivation at all. You simply must be moral. And that's it. Duty is an absolute, what he calls a categorical thing. So here's duty. A visual representation of duty. Well, the word. Now, he says we are required to act morally because it is our duty, and that is it. But why is that the case? Well, I've put this in green so you can see that it is his reasoning for this. Well, he says, look, there are kind of two possible motives, okay? Two possible things. One of them is, let's say, we'll say this one is duty, just an absolute command. You do it because it is the right thing to do. You are doing moral things because it is the thing that you ought to do. And the other reason is some form of selfishness. Now, it may not look like selfishness. So you may, for instance, think, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll behave morally because it makes me feel good. Okay? So one example he gives is of someone that kind of volunteers for a charity because they're the kind of person that likes people, right? And he says, well, that's actually a kind of selfishness. He says, look, and I'll put this in red so you can see it's a bad outcome. That person will only volunteer for that charity as long as that makes them feel good. This isn't morality. It isn't a motivation to behave morally, but a motivation to do certain things, which is perfectly fine. But you're not behaving morally when you do it. You're behaving selfishly. You're behaving because that's your nature. And as soon as your nature changes or the rewards from volunteering for that charity change, then you stop doing it. And he says, that's fine to do that, but you're just not behaving morally when you do it. Whereas duty, on the other hand, is moral because you're doing it for morality's sake. I can't spell morality, which is a problem if I'm teaching you it. I'm hoping that all of my missteps in spelling are going to give you some relief if you, like me, struggle with your spelling somewhat. So that's why duty is important, because you're doing it just for morality, whereas any other motivation will take you away from morality and towards that thing that you're motivated for. And as soon as that thing takes you away from the rules of morality, you'll follow it because you're not really behaving morally, says Kant. Kant gives us a really famous example of this, which is now called the shopkeeper analogy. Essentially, a little kid, here's the little kid, comes to the shop. Now, that kid is coming to what looks like a definitely dodgy shop. I don't think that this is a registered business. So he's selling like cups and apples in a sign that just says shop. Excellent branding. I don't know why I'm insulting him. He's not real. I drew it. So this shopkeeper realizes that this is a kid, and kids can be fooled. So he could overcharge, but he chooses not to. Now that's important. That's his action. Okay, I'm just going to draw a line there so you can see that there's a difference between the two. So the shopkeeper chooses not to overcharge. The question is, what is their motivation? What is the shopkeeper's motivation? So in scenario 1, the motivation is this. Well, the shopkeeper thinks, if I overcharge and then the kid goes back and tells their parents I've overcharged, I'll lose the parents' business. So the motivation is a want to keep business. Now, of the two over here, is that a selfish thing or a duty thing? It's a selfish thing, right? Because he's just interested in keeping his business going, and by being fair to a kid who doesn't know any better, he knows he'll get more business. As soon as that changes, however, well, then his actions will change too. You see. So the commentator Michael Sandel puts it like this. He says that the shopkeeper, so that's this guy here, acts honestly by choosing not to overcharge only for the sake of self-interest. So this option here. The shopkeeper's action lacks, therefore, moral worth. Even though he's doing a good thing, the motivation is wrong. Scenario 2. Well, in scenario 2, he does it out of duty alone. Well, then, even if his business kind of interests change, then, sorry, that should read motivation. Even if his business interests change, he will still be fair to the kid because he knows it is the right thing to do. He's being motivated purely by morality. Now, this motivation to behave morally is what Kant calls the good will. So the good will is simply this: the motivation to obey your duty. Kant says it is the only properly good virtue or good characteristic. Now he's attacking Aristotle here. Aristotle thought that loads and loads of characteristics could be kind of virtues, could be good things. Everything from truthfulness to friendliness and so on. Now, why does Kant think that the motivation to obey your duty, and only that, is the good characteristic? Why does he write nothing, he says, nothing, no other characteristic can possibly be conceived in the world or even out of it which can be called good without qualification except goodwill? Why does he think that all other characteristics are potentially bad? Well, because all other characteristics they could be used for bad ends. I just listed some there, Aristotle's. So, for instance, friendliness could be used for good ends, but it could also be used to, say, get a group of people to be your friends and exclude somebody else, to start essentially a bully circle. So all other characteristics could be used for evil, except the mere inclination to obey your duty because it is your duty. And that's what the goodwill is. It is an inclination to just obey your duty. And that is why he thinks it's the only good characteristic, because it's the only one that means that you actually behave in a moral way no matter what.